Testing, testing, mic test. Okay, we're good. This is this is probably better if I talk like this. It is better, much better. Okay, we are live. We're alive. Okay, and things are just over here, please. Thank you. And we're talking about speed, right? And you always hear like speed is like super important, but I'm starting to really understand it, right? And with that comes a lot of consequences, right? It's not like the old days, right? Every time technology improves, things get done faster. Every time something improves, things get done faster. And so to be able to create more value, right? Someone created value once upon a time, right? Someone created value once upon a time, and that led to things happening faster, things happening better, things happening cheaper, right? And every time something new comes along, we find ourselves in a place where industries change, what's valuable changes. And because of the internet, because of social media, the past 15, 20 years have been insanely valuable. And we can talk about consequences about that, but things just need to be done faster, they need to be done better, and they need to be done cheaper. That's always been the case. Anytime something happens, what's better, faster, and cheaper will more often win. And you don't always have to be better. Sometimes faster wins. First to market, right? And the thing about content is, and I'm realizing this more and more, the reason why things don't work is not because the idea is bad, and the idea could be bad, but the reason why things don't work is because there's not enough of it, right? People are inundated with all sorts of content, right? People are inundated. They're brain rotted, right? And they just scroll and they just scroll, and more often than not they'll consume content that's essentially just goofy, or like a TikTok dance or something just funny or quirky, and that'll be it. That's what people go for, right? That's the kind of stuff that works, right? And to stand up above that, if you're not doing TikTok dances, if you're not trying to be overly quirky and overly comedic, if you're just trying to be informative, just pure education, to be able to win in that, you just have to be faster. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Anytime you're doing something, you have to consider this. Can I make this process faster? Right? And if you cannot, and if it takes up a large chunk of your day, then cut it out. Cut it out. Right? Find a new way. Simple as. You just need to be faster. And here's the thing, limitations spark creativity, right? Pressure makes diamonds. So just put yourself in a position, if you have a really good idea, right? And it does not work because you don't have enough time, cut it out. Come up with a new idea. Ideas are a dime a dozen. The execution matters. What can you do, right, without sacrificing quality? Because that's so important, right? You have now people with crazy budgets who are able to do so much with their time. They have teams. You're finding like YouTube, like social media is now run by teams, right? It's not like 10, 15 years ago where it'd be like one or two guys and they'd be making their own videos and they'd be editing it themselves. Or maybe they'd be filming and they'd have like an editor that they paid a little bit, right? It's not it anymore. It's not it. How can you be lean, quick, and of good quality? That's what's valuable, right? You consider what's valuable and you try to create a way of doing it. That's insight, right? And you have to be fast. You have to be ever present. But reputation also matters. So you have to have a consistent amount of really valuable content. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm realizing with my content, right? It's like the ideas are good. I find some cool insight, and it's like, okay, how do I film this in a cool way? It's like, what can I do that's the fastest to make it most engaging, to get the best hook? And I've got this bad habit of like writing all the good stuff, like because I'm from a film background, right? I write scripts. It's like start off in an interesting place and then get to the main bit, which is at the end or the center, right? It's just the way film writing works, right? Or at least that's how it was taught. Like, of course, have a strong opening, but like the ending is like the climax is like the most important part. But because of short form content, attention is fleeting. So the most important thing has to be the beginning, right? It has to engage the most amount of curiosity because that's the thing that stops them from doing this. Just keep scrolling. So the whole goal of a content creator is just to stop people from click on something else, right? With long form content, you'd see like a bunch of videos on YouTube that have like a bunch of like millions of views, and it's just a guy talking, right? Like I was watching a video the other day about bullshit jobs, to kind of research for the video I was doing, and I did get some things wrong in that. Um, in yesterday's live about what a bullshit job is, right? Because I talked about the service industry a lot, but it's not true. If you're waiting tables, you're providing actual value. If you're bringing food to people, you're providing actual value. If you're a manager of a manager who makes sure that the manager is doing the job of managing, um, that might be a bullshit job. If you're a guy who works in like if you have like a high paying job at like a company, and you have some spare money in your budget and you hire a couple of lackeys, those lackeys, that's a bullshit job. And you might be useless. Your job might be bullshit, right? Because the people doing the actual job are the people that you're making do the actual job, right? And oftentimes, most people in management positions aren't doing the actual work that their clients need them to do. It's always making sure the structure of the company is all right. But if you have like four dudes, doing fulfillment, and it can work, then and if you have 100 people at your company, then you're incredibly inefficient, and you should lean down, right? And oftentimes when people are firing, it's those people that get fired, and the people higher up in the managerial positions, they're harder to get rid of. Something about contracts, probably. But even then, right? Taking it out of the realm of content, even in businesses, when you have an inefficient system like that, you have to consider, am I future proof? Am I safe from anything that could happen in the future, right? And companies that were lean and efficient really thrived during the lockdowns, right? Because they were prepared for it, right? Because they were efficient and they could do things with speed that companies that needed an office um, couldn't do. Personally, I like there's been a large shift in like people wanting people back in the office, and I think that's like partly useful and partly ridiculous because why ruin a bad thing? I mean, their whole thing is that if you're at home, you could probably goof off and not be as efficient. But who's to say that people who are at their job are any more efficient? If the job is getting done, right? Who cares? Right? Why do you care if the job is getting done? And I think this culture comes from people thinking, or even at least jobs being based off of hourly rates. And I think that's an incredibly silly proposition. You should not, pay people for their time because, like, it's like construction workers, right? You don't want to pay them per hour because they'll extend that job to as long as much as they can to squeeze as much money out of you as possible. But if you're able to, get a quote and just pay what they think it's worth, then it doesn't matter how long. They can give you an idea of how long it would take, this amount of money, and there's no way that they're going to screw you over, right? No extra coffee breaks because they're getting paid a certain amount. They might even try to get it done earlier because if they finish up, they could probably spend that spare time looking for another job or getting another job done, making more money, right? So it incentivizes. And that's what you want. You want to incentivize speed. You want to incentivize quality, right? And more often than not, you get what you pay for, right? And that's why I find it strange when people are, talk shit about minimum wage workers. Not caring enough for their job. It's like your job doesn't even pay rent. So how much do you really want them to give a shit, right? And the same thing happens here, right? Consider this. Look at this from a position of having a job, right? But instead of a job, it's like your own business. You're running a business. Do you want four editors goofing around in like a workspace that you've hired, and getting it done on time, but it's a lot of wasted time. Maybe they get a video done in a week, or do you want an editor you can give it to and be like, I'll give you this much for the video, and he'll get it done in 4 to 8 hours, right? He's not going to spend his day worrying about a lunch break or whatever. It's his own time. Just get it done by that time, and we're good, right? And of course, that comes with a lot of trust. But then don't hire people you don't trust, you know? And because of the way the world progresses, speed and quality is favored, right? Speed alone will not get you far. You have to know which direction you're going, right? You have to provide value that other people cannot even conceive. Like, you have to provide, like, this is the way to win in this kind of game space, let's call it. You have to be able to just simply do more, right? If you're providing more value and faster, you're going to win. And there's no question about it. And if other people don't see your value, someone will, right? Speed, faster, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean you can't do slower things, but it's like you provide it faster, right? It's like podcasts work, like JRE works because every day or every couple of days you get a new podcast, despite it being a slow kind of talking few hours of just conversation. You know, it's like if you make a podcast every once a month, sure, people may tune in, but because people want to listen to podcasts, they're probably just going to end up liking another podcast more because it's more present, right? It's more present, it's more in front of them, and that's a problem. You want to be ever present, despite what type of content it is, as long as it's providing a quality, providing a value to someone, it's fine. But if you're doing it too slowly, if your turnover of product is too slow, people will go elsewhere. If there is demand in the market for your kind of product, and if you're not providing enough supply, people will go somewhere else, right? Supply and demand. If there is a demand for the thing you're providing, it gets attention. People want it, they will go somewhere else. It's like, consider your favorite YouTubers when you were a kid, right? You watched them, and then eventually Ray William Johnson quit. So what did you do? You started watching reaction channels. Right? People liked someone with a personality, kind of going out there and reviewing things, reviewing comedic things, reviewing popular things. It's kind of like the early days of that format, equals three, right? And so you find yourself in a position where you're like, Ray William Johnson's gone. What do I watch now? And it's like that attention will go somewhere else because it's like it's dopamine, right? You're getting dopamine from watching someone do a certain thing. So you want more of that. So you look for other creators, right? And during someone has to fill the hole. It's like a coup d'état, right? You can't just kill a king, right? You can't just kill a leader. You can't just like kill a dictator because someone else will take his place. You create a rival that the people like and the people can support, and then you remove him and replace him, right? Because that it leaves a gap. It leaves a power. What's the word? It leaves a space. Something. You know what I mean? There are shoes to be filled. People if you remove a leader, someone will take his place. So you have to give them something. You have to constantly be there. And that's the point. You have to be fast. You have to provide quality constantly, and that's why, you know if being a content creator is something you genuinely want to do, if doing business is something you genuinely want to do, if doing any sort of anything is something you want to do, the best time to start is now, because a year from now, 6 months from now, it's going to be much harder, right? That change in whether something was easier or not used to happen in larger gaps of time, but now it happens much faster because there's a lot more out there, a lot more competition. So to stand out over the competition, you have to be faster and you have to be better, right? Not necessarily cheaper, right? That's cheaper is, I think, probably the least important, because if you're good and you're fast, people, if you're actually good, people will pay for it, right? If you provide actual value, people will pay for it. Um, Beating out on price is worst case scenario. If your product is actually worth it, people will buy. And you may get lucky, and you might be able to charge something for a high price. But if you're not providing enough value, then your success will be short lived. So you might have speed, and but you don't have value. You could get lucky. You might have value but not speed, and you could get lucky. But then someone else will take your place, or people will stop buying because or they'll want refunds because they did not get the value they thought they would. So speed and value are far more important. Price comes last. Price comes last because whoever you're targeting, if they have the money and you're providing them actual value, you're giving them something actually that will change their life for the better, um, then then they'll pay whatever, whether it's just attention from a YouTube video or a short, or a product, an info product, a physical product, a software, whatever. It does not matter. If you're providing real value, people will come, and that's the way it is, right? You know, like I like to explain it with um, extremes. I think explanation with extremes is probably my favorite way to go about it. It's like, because that's just the way it works. All right. If you take something to its extreme, you discover the underlying truth of it. Right. And when you get to the more moderate examples, there's obviously nuances, but the underlying truth doesn't change. If you go too much in that direction, this will happen. Right. And as long as you have that underlying truth in mind, the nuances will come. Right. You can, of course, you can have nuances, but you start with the underlying truth and you work from there. Right. That's the basis of understanding. Take something to its extreme. What do you learn? And it's like, okay, when you remove it from the extremes, what nuances, what variables start becoming important? And that's how you keep an eye on things. I kind of lost track of what I was talking about, but I had this issue with my videos that I was recording, and it's like I was doing this thing where it's like remember a portion of the script and then go to a different place and then record it, and then you find yourself like kind of moving around too much and spends a lot of time um, just kind of moving around places just to record a line. And it's like, okay, I can do that. And it probably makes the video more interesting because it's more vibrant. There's different settings. It's visually more appealing. Different things are going on. People, it's just, kind of more interesting to look at than me just sitting in one place. But I'm like, okay, that takes too much time. And I'm in Dubai, so I have to do this, in daylight, and it's too hot. So even though it's a good idea and it probably works, let's cut it out and see what can happen. What can we do in one place without all the extra things that eat up my time? Okay, and it's like it's faster to do things like that in the edit. Okay, so if I just focus on the words, I stay in one place, or I keep it minimal to one or two, I can then use B-roll. B-roll is easy for me to get. It's like a low taxing thing. So I can just go online, search up a B-roll, put it in the video, and then it's fine. And perhaps that will work, right? One thing I noticed is sound. This is something I was worried about because my latest video didn't do so well, only 60 views from last night. But I was kind of worried about it because I'm like, the sound isn't great. And if the sound isn't great, people might not want to listen. And it's like, okay, I've lowered quality because I was trying to work fast and I was trying to do too much. And I kind of lost track of what was important. So this time around, I stayed in one place. I focused on sound. I tried to make sure that voice wasn't cracking, that the mic wasn't like spazzing out. I was like, okay, here I am. Here we are. What can I do with this? And we're gonna test that out. I'm still gonna keep an eye on yesterday's video. And if it doesn't do well in the next 2-3 days, I'm going to recreate it because we're testing. This is all tests. I don't care if you've already seen it. Maybe you watch the remake and maybe you watch the Snyder cut and it's better. You know what I mean? And it was better. It was much better. But you know, drink your coffee, start editing, and that's what I'm going to do after this. I came here to sit in the AC, do the live, and quickly. I'm trying to incorporate what I talk about into my work. So it's like I'm just going to go there, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna sit here and for the next hour have a snack and edit for the next hour. Then I'm thinking about working out. I think I might go work out like in public. I like working out in the heat. I like that I sweat more. Makes me feel like I'm doing more and less. I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. But I've always enjoyed working out in the heat. Speed. Everything must be done with speed. Obviously, safely and with quality. You don't want to be lifting too heavy or doing things your body can't do. Because we're not David Goggins by choice. But yes, that's where we are essentially. Speed and quality, speed and quality. Keep pushing it out there, and eventually you will win. Good idea. Write it down. Film it quick. Um, have a format that you're going to edit with, and make it interesting. And it's like, okay, am I providing insight? Am I doing it fast? Is it good quality? Push it out. Repeat that. Repeat that again and again, and it's going to be one of the most taxing things you ever do, right? Because it's a new way of looking at life. It's a new way of doing things, and it has a lot to do with, you have to create new neural pathways, new ways of understanding how work gets done, what quality is, what speed is, coming up with good ideas, spending hours coming up with good ideas, and realizing it doesn't work, or there's a part of it that doesn't work, and then you just have to cut it out, right? And the only one who suffers is you with your time, right? And it may feel like, I've just wasted my time, but you've learned that that way doesn't work, and someone who wants to do what you're doing will have to go through that, right? And your ability to go through that difficult thing makes you more valuable than someone who hasn't done that other thing. This is why I say, create your own insight. Do not copy. You can't. If you're someone who's, if you're someone who's used to cheat in tests and copy and think that's the way to go about life, reconsider. You might get lucky. Things might work sometimes, but you miss out on the value of creating something yourself. Being right. It's not just about making money. It's not just about doing things. It's about what makes you special because you have been able to do that, right? It's like you become a person of authority because you've done the difficult thing, right? And here's a real life example. It's like a lot of bunch of countries' health secretaries, right, um, are just like obese, right? You notice that? Like a bunch of countries, the health secretary, health England, Secretary of Health, Victoria Atkins. Okay, this is the health secretary of England, I think. Victoria Atkins, right? That woman with the red background. She looks like a young, healthy individual. If she gives you health advice, you're probably going to listen, right? And this was a previous health secretary, um, who was who became quite a talk of the town, right? And why is that? Therese Coffee. Search it up yourself, right? There's a difference between these two people. And the thing is, Therese Coffee doesn't look very healthy. It's like you want your health secretary to be. If your health secretary was David Goggins, right? Even then, I'd think, you know, maybe not, because he's all about, you know, how much can I push my mind till I break my bones, right? That's not someone you want. You want, but a young, healthy individual like Victoria Atkins. Look at her name, Atkins, like the Atkins diet. Jeez, you know, her branding is on point, regardless of her politics. I don't really know her politics, but you know, someone healthy is telling you how to be healthy, you're going to listen. If someone fat is telling you how to be healthy, you're probably going to be looking for more information on whether they're trustworthy. Like, just because you're fat doesn't mean you have bad advice, right? Right? Because, obviously you get a lot of health issues that come with obesity, right? Like a lot of these, what do you call it? Boxing champions. Like if you look at their trainers, they're a little obese. They got a little belly. Um, but if you look at them in their prime, it's like, okay, that's the evidence that it works. What they know something, right? But if someone's been unhealthy their entire life and they try to give you advice, you're probably going to be like, I don't know about that. And then, so consider that, not to get too political. But if you're someone who provides certain information, having done the thing, having actually done the thing, makes you much more valuable as an authority figure, right? Like, who are you going to listen to business advice from? Um, Someone who's a venture capitalist, or are you going to listen to some 14-year-old kid with a Ferrari in their bedroom talking about crypto? Who are you going to listen to? Right. So being a person of authority comes from being constantly ever present and speed quickly, providing as much value consistently as possible. And that's how you become that person, right? Like, you have to do the difficult thing for people to respect you when you're trying to tell them something, right? And that's partly why I'm doing the 100 days of live streaming. It's like, how can I tell people you have to do this if I don't do it myself? I have to go through the hard thing. I have to figure out the nitty gritty. And that's the way people will believe me when I say, don't do this, do this. Do you see how that works? And you don't get that by cutting corners. If you're like, you see a lot of these courses, like, it's just people selling other people's information. And most of the courses are garbage. They don't work because someone else did it a long time ago and you're just selling what they did. And so you don't have the correct insight to be able to help people actually come up with a valuable strategy. But if you've done it, right, then you're someone to listen to. And a lot of that information is a lot of the information out there that's out there behind, free or behind a paywall, is outdated or useless. So, don't buy a course unless it's from someone who is providing actual value and they have a lot of secrets. You can take that. Um, don't buy a course. Um, Create your own way of doing something. And it's going to be the hardest thing you ever do. It's going to be the most difficult thing you ever do, but it's the only thing that's useful. Just do it yourself. Forge a new path. And the only way you can do that is by being fast, testing things again and again, and always bringing a significant amount of quality to the table. Otherwise, someone else will win. You have to be fast and valuable, quality. Otherwise, you will lose. And that's something that I'm trying to implement now. And unfortunately, that comes with letting go of some really good ideas that you may have. Right? You have to be able to kill good ideas for the sake of the bigger picture. I learned this in film school. It's like, just because you have a good idea for a script, right? Like a good climax, but it doesn't really fit well with the rest of the movie, kill the idea. Save it for something else, or create another thing around that idea. Split those ideas. Just because one idea is good doesn't mean you can't have another. right? It's better to kill a really good idea for the sake of making a relatively good one idea. Like if you try to mix things together that don't fit, the whole thing will fall apart. Do you understand? Do you understand? Type yes if you understand. I know you're in there. I see you. Do you get it? So you have to create your own thing, and you have to test. You have to test, and you keep testing. Speed, fast, good quality. And it takes a lot of work. And I'd argue I'm falling short. I'd argue I'm falling short. But it won't get done unless I do it. So we're going to keep going. And I've sped up the process of writing and filming shorts. And I think I can make up for the change in content with, perhaps changing the process in the editing experience. As it's much easier to do things in the edit as long as your core, because I'm trying to do educational content, informative content. It's much better to really focus in on the script, make sure the script is fine, speed up the rest of the process of filming and everything else, and then leave the creativity and the variety building in the edit, because the edit is the easiest part to do, and it's technical, but it's the easiest part to make changes late in the game, right? You don't want to film like a complicated thing, right? And I especially don't want to do that in Dubai because I have to go outside, I have to set up certain things, and I only have a certain amount of time because if my phone overheats, I'm gonna have to wait half an hour or go into an AC place and make sure it's cool so that I can go and film it. It's like if I can make a simple film, right, and then I play around in the edit, then I'm good, right? And that solves the problem of spending too much time filming. And content like speed, right? There's people making there's people out there making like just them talking to their camera and posting it and getting hundreds of thousands of views, right? And that might just be because of who they are. But because of who they are able to do that, right? So you have to do something better and faster than them, right? You have to be more present on people's timelines. Your face has to be there, right? And that, depending on how you want to do it, it may only be in front of people's faces for a year and then they forget about you, right? Just we'll get into that later, but you know, okay, coffee's finished. I think this is the longest live we've done in a while. I haven't hit like 40 minutes in a while, which is good. I just had a lot to ramble about. I've been thinking about speed a lot because I'm too slow and I want it to be faster. So I filmed something. Now I'm going to spend time editing it. Very simple filming. Um, Decent script. And of course, I have the problem of writing the most interesting part at the end. So I rewrote it to basically say the final line, and formatted it to make it the hook, right? Because I notice I talk about from a random place, and I try to write it like a script, and it like build intrigue and interesting things, and it's like okay, and then we land at the final point, which is my insight, but it's like it's short form, so people want to be hooked in initially, so you have to kind of put the ending in the beginning, or at least I have to because of the way that I write, because of my script writing background, which is a curse, but at least it helps me recognize by looking at the ending that okay, that's the important part, and yeah, get my insight in, get my script in, get it filmed, and yeah, that's all I have. Yeah, I'm gonna edit now. Probably have something to eat, then drink a liter of milk because that's what I do. I like milk. This has been fun. I hope this was informative. Be good, do good things, don't copy, originate, create value. Be real and live in the real world. Live in reality. Do good to the people around you. Create real value, and subscribe, and good things happen. Okay. All right. Cool. Also note that all of this will be privated once my journey is complete. I will see you tomorrow on day. What day is it? It's 55. I'll see you on day 56, where we'll be providing real value. See you tomorrow.